Okay, well, welcome everyone to our work session from a long break. Our first item on the agenda is an audit presentation to the commission from Brian Wright of Johnson Murphy and Wright. Agenda item 24-876. Mr. Alexander.
I was going to say Brian Wright is from Johnson Murphy Wright is here to give the financial report for the year, also known as a dreaded audit. Brian.
Oh,
the bad.
Well, it's not dreaded for us.
Is that the best one already from?
Thank you, Mr. Wright.
Oh, good evening.
Good evening.
How's everyone?
Good. How are you?
Good. I know you've had these for a little while. I'm going to hit some highlights here to let you know how things went. I'm sure you've already looked, but I'll just go over these briefly. First thing, if you could turn over to page 23, probably the best place to start. This is the statement of revenues and expenditures and changes in fund balances. Those nice long phrase for income statement. So this is the income statement for the governmental funds, which includes the general fund. And we've got some other governmental funds. There's 4 non-major that's in that column by itself that are summarized. We'll show you, I can show you the detail of those in just a second. First, we just look at the general fund. The general fund had total revenues of $9.6 million. That's actually up over last year by $452,000, and $308,000 of that actually, believe it or not, was interest income. We've actually got some interest income for the first time in a long time since the rates went up. So that helped us getting that $300,000 right there. So $9.6 million in revenues. If you look down, we got total expenditures of $10,335,262. Those are actually up $1.9 million. And that's basically because if you look up a couple more lines, you'll see one that says capital outlay, $2.2 million. We spent a lot of money last year. Of course, it was grant money. We got our ARPA money that we got, and we got some highway funds also. And we also borrowed some money. But so we took all that and we bought a whole bunch of equipment. We got a $630,000 fire engine. We had some new signalization we put in. It was $430,000. We got some fire gear and radios. It was $340,000. Got some new police cars, cameras, and tasers. $248,000. Public mower, a Public Works mower and dump truck, and some office equipment. And the most important thing is we spent $64,000 on pickleball courts. Everybody's excited about that, I know. But so we spent a lot of grant money, which is great because that's the government sending us some money. So we spent all that, put in $2.2 million worth of improvements that definitely helped the town as far as our police and fire department, public works. So I guess we had $9.6 million of revenue, total expenditures at 10.3. We also had $818,000, which was proceeds from debt issuance. And all that added together, if you see that third line up from the bottom, the general fund or the general operations of the city, we have a net income of $175,669. So we ran $10 million through the system and we wound up making money. And I think that's pretty darn good. Okay, if you look at that, other governmental funds, if you just look kind of over at the bottom there, across that same line where it says net changes in fund balance, so the general fund had $175,000. Those the other governmental funds in total lost $50,802. Now, kind of remember that figure a little bit. If you'll turn back to page 63. There's the 4 non-major funds: the State Street Aid Fund, the Solid Waste Fund, the Drug Fund, and the Impound Fund. Now, these funds, if you'll see, the State Street Aid had 518,000, ventures of 578. It lost 59,581. But in there also, we had some capital outlay where we bought a new solar message trailer and some new signaling systems too for $114,000. So that fund lost a little money, but once again, we spent some money for some good stuff. The solid waste fund had $1,055,000 revenue, $1,068,000 of expenditures. It lost $13,429, but once again, that capital outlay line, we bought a $116,000 backhoe. So the drug fund had $27,000 of income, $4,000 of expense. It made $22,779. And lastly, the impound fund had $85 come in. We spent $656, so it lost to $571. But you'll see the total of all those funds, third line up at the bottom, there's that same $50,802. So that's the number that came through the front. So that's the breakdown of that number. The last fund that we have to talk about is our only proprietary fund. It's on page 33. Stormwater fund. It had operating revenues of $313,000, total expenditures of $279. That fund actually made, I also had an interest income of $10,361, which it didn't have hardly any last year. So all that added up gives us a net income of $45,234.
On which page you on again?
33.
33.
Oh, thank you.
Did y'all have?
Just a formatting question. The stormwater fund is listed separate from the other non-major governmental funds. Is that because it's considered a major governmental fund?
No, it's because the only major fund you have is the general fund, general operations. Then the non-majors are the other special revenue funds that don't qualify because of income size. They're lumped together. This last one on page 33 is actually an enterprise fund. So that's why it's separate. It's not a governmental or a special revenue fund. It's an enterprise fund, which means it's intended. Enterprise funds are actually intended to make money. It's like a for-profit business would be like a water fund or a sewer fund or a stormwater fund. Those are supposed to be kind of self-supporting for user-based fees and rates and that kind of thing. And that's why it's up by itself, because it's a user rate based kind of fund.
It's funded from a fee, not a tax.
Well, the solid waste is as well, but it's a lower amount. Is that the difference?
It could go either way.
Okay.
It's hard to tell the difference when you write the check, though. The difference between a fee and a tax. It's hard to
Well,
tell.
they do land differently though. For example, the churches, nonprofits are paying the stormwater fee and they're not taxed.
Right.
And Hamilton County trustee collects taxes and pursues it to the nth degree. They bill for fees, but they don't pursue non-payment. So there's actually downstream a significant difference between a tax and a fee as it plays out over the years internal to the city.
The solid waste fund is also, it's built off of a flat rate that everybody pays the same, right? Unlike our stormwater fee.
Well, that's all the funds we have. The most important thing though is turn to the back, I guess the last page, the third from last page, page 87. This is our schedule of findings, requests, and costs. It's got the opinion, talks about the opinion that was issued on the report. We gave an unmodified opinion, which is the best you can get. If you don't want a modified opinion, if we found something bad or something irregular, we had to modify our report. So since you had a clean opinion, they changed the name to unmodified for some reason a few years ago. But anyway, it means that's the best you can get. That's a clean opinion. We also have internal control deficiencies. There was none disclosed. Material non-compliance, there was none disclosed. As far as the single audit, since you spent over $750,000 in federal funds, grant funds, you had to have what's called a single audit, which is we have to go more in depth. We have to do like we normally do for a regular audit. Then we have to go look at the grants specifically and by dollar levels, you have to pick out your major grants and you have to really look at those in detail to see everything that was spent, and the federal government requires that. So that's called a single audit. But the single audit had internal control deficiencies. There was none there. It also got an unmodified opinion, which means a clean opinion. So you got no findings and 2 unmodified opinions. So you got the best you could get there. So,
Is that something you, on the single audit, is that something, those findings you have to report back to the federal government?
yes.
Okay.
This report has to be, anytime you have a single audit and you spend over $750,000, the report has to be filed with the single audit clearinghouse,
Okay.
which even if you didn't have any findings like this, I'll have to send this report goes to the federal government to see that you didn't have any. So regardless or not, it goes just based on dollar level.
Thank you.
Well, it's a clean opinion. Everything was great. John survived one more time.
One
One
last
last
time.
time.
Well, no, he just won't be here next year to hear about it.
But we appreciate his help and all y'all's help and getting letters back and forth. And we appreciate the opportunity to do the audit.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wright. We appreciate you coming here to share it with us.
Yeah.
And well done, Mr. Alexander, once again.
Any questions about any of this? Talk to John. Between him and me, we'll be able to, all these numbers drill down to the detail that's in here also. So if there's anything you want to know more about the number of what happened here, just get with John or I will be glad to help you.
Thank you. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, Brian.
Can I highlight some numbers that I had talked with Mr. Alexander about? We had for fiscal year 22-23, we had projected use of fund balance of $806,874, right? But we actually ended up with not even touching that and then adding to by $175,669. So we ended up with a surplus, A plus. Our state and local sales tax increased $193,673. And our interest earnings increased. I think he did touch on that. 222,000, can't say this, 222,40, how do I say this? 1,049
And 40.
and 49.
There's a zero second.
There's a zero in there. But I was just really impressed. I had been reviewing this and then touched base with John just for some of the really nice highlights. And so I just wanted to share those with you all.
Well done managing those interest-bearing accounts.
Not bad for ditch dwelling.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe not a complete unmitigated disaster.
Just mitigated. Next item on our work session agenda is agreement with Waycaster CPA LLC for support and consulting services to the Finance Department, Resolution 24-1651. Mr. Graham.
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners, and I'd like to point out Jennifer Waycaster is here with us in the house. And she knows Brian. She's a former colleague of Brian down at Johnson, Murphy and Wright. So she has actually audited our books in the past. I laid upon the dais for each of you this talking paper on transition to new CFO and revised financial practices. So I wanted to really take this moment in the work session to step you through that, and then the resolution that's actually in the regular agenda packet will make a little bit more sense. Does everybody have a copy of this? Okay, thank you. So the purpose of this document is to share with the commission, staff, and other stakeholders the strategy to onboard a new CFO, considering the imminent retirement of our long-tenured and well-respected CFO, effective the 17th of February. So the responsible parties for this strategy are myself and the Director of Administration, Tracy Perry. Thank you, Tracy. We broke it down by a series of steps, really to just outline for you how we get from John sitting there to John 2.0 sitting there in about 6 months. Step one, We're going to reclassify Ruthie Rowan as the interim CFO. Beginning Monday, the February 5th, Ruthie will remain a part-time employee, but reclassified as interim CFO for the duration of this effort. Transfer supervision of Ruthie to Director of Administration Tracy Perry. The duration of this effort is defined as beginning on the 5th of February and ending 20 business days, approximately 4 weeks, after the start of the new CFO. At the end of that duration, Ruthie will return to her current classification. So before I go on to step 2, I'll just speak to you a little bit about Ruthie. Eminently qualified. She's very comfortable with the bookkeeping aspects of the duties. She's done it for years, and we couldn't be in a better position to have, even though she's part-time, she can handle those things that we got to get done with continuity and with competency.
Mr.
And-
Graham, can I just say really quick, just for the record, for those who don't know, she was our city recorder for years. So-
Right. A full career with the city. She was a dispatcher way back in the day when the city used to dispatch her own.
Mhm.
She had a variety of positions through the Red Bank Police Department. And then she came over and was the city recorder prior to Tracy. And there was a year-long interim from October of 2011 to December of 2012, where the city didn't have a permanent city manager, and John Alexander and Ruthie Rowan formally shared responsibilities and split that pay bump between the two of them. So Ruthie has seen it all, and she's eminently qualified. And she's agreed to do it too. I didn't bring any of this to you till I talked to all the people that are named here in. Step 2. Reclassify April Sledge to a new classification, Assistant CFO. She's currently our payroll clerk. Expand her duties to include managing the relationship with all our financial institutions and an increased level of responsibility for the management of the overall finances of the city. This is long overdue and will remain a permanent change. Transfer supervision of April to Director of Administration Tracy Perry. And April's ready for that, and looking forward to it, and we will support her as she grows into that new level of responsibility. Step 3, onboard support services consultant to assist with all aspects of the fiscal affairs of the city of Red Bank for the duration, and that is Jennifer behind me, Jennifer Waycaster. Attached to this talking paper is a 3-page document. That was her initial proposal, and I provided it with you tonight to kind of get some sense of the granularity. We're talking with her across the breadth of financial services. This is a draft. It'll change. If you notice, she's asking for 24,000 and I'm budgeting for 50 because I'm going to need a lot more than what she initially put down on paper here. But we'll work through that. More specifically to her, the consultant will perform much of the daily responsibilities performed by John currently, her and her staff. She has several employees and they're all capable in this space. Consultant will modernize aspects of our financial infrastructure and practices. Consultant will assist in defining what we need in our next CFO. Consultant services, as defined herein, will sunset upon 20 business days, approximately 4 weeks of overlap with the newly hired CFO. So this consultant's roughly on the same timeline as our interim CFO, Ruthie is. And then I referenced her attached document there. Step 5, review the pending MTAS study of our finance department, which was initiated earlier in the fall, and we're anticipating receipt of it in the coming weeks, and incorporate those recommendations as appropriate. Step 5, in consideration of all the above, and in consultation with our consultant, redefine the job classification of the next CFO. So we're in a strong starting position on that. We have John's classification. We all know what John's done and done superbly. But we're going to take this point to circle the wagons with a lot of experts, the consultant, Ruthie, MTAS, Tracy and I, April, and put our heads together and just make sure that the job description is what we want. And after all steps 1 through 5, then we recruit and onboard the next CFO. And this whole step is envisioned about probably honestly a 6-month event horizon. And I'm very comfortable with that. And I wanted to share with the commission and the public that even as we lose our long tenured CFO, I'm comfortable in this transition because of this plan. Yes, ma'am.
4 to 6 months for the whole, everything described here.
That's our goal. And that's actually pretty aggressive to go to a new John,
Yes.
John 2.0, as I like to
We've
say.
had several successful recruitments in 6 months, but we've also have some that have taken up to a year.
We have, you know, recruiting at this level is not an easy task. And that's why we're taking our time to redefine what we want this person to do. John had grown into a role that was massive. It involved running a department, supervising staff, touching every aspect of the financial services of the city. And I'm not so sure we're gonna hire right back into that expansive of a role. And this is why we're gonna take some time and figure it out. We have the luxury of a robust city staff, specifically Tracy and Ruthie and April. And we are very fortunate to have Waycaster CPA LLC in this area. They have done this exact same thing for 3 other small cities in Hamilton County. When a long-standing CFO retired, the city needed some support in an interim way. Jennifer's come alongside those cities, partnered with them, and helped them, you know, modernize to some extent, and then go back out for a successful recruitment. So she knows the drill and has been through it several times here lately. And in fact, currently with one of the other cities in Hamilton County as well. So I feel very fortunate to have all those people in the mix.
Well, it sounds like we'll be in good hands.
I think so.
I had a question about April's reclassification. Does she currently have a CMFO certification, or will she be pursuing
She does not, and we might incentivize obtaining that as part of this conversation. She does not, and it would not be required for an assistant CFO position as we envision it.
Okay, but it will be encouraged.
Absolutely, and supported, and you know, mentoring and coaching and supporting. The city already has a pathway to that for multiple people who might be eligible. As a matter of fact, Leslie Johnson just took us up on that. I just finished all the academics, and I have my last test on Unit 11 next week. And your Director of Administration, Tracy Perry, started the program today. So she will become a CFO in about a year. So yeah, it's just a marvelous overview of all things municipal finance put on by the comptroller, none other than the comptroller himself and the UT MTAS staff. It is really a great program.
Excellent. Any questions about the transition plan?
Well, I'm just glad it didn't take Data to replace John. Yeah. So, took a little longer, so.
Yeah.
And thank you for your service, sir.
Speaking of that, we will have, John,
Jane,
listen to this. We're gonna have a resolution for the commission to consider at your next session. And
Pizza party?
Let me talk to the CFO. So we'll formally thank and farewell John at our next commission meeting. And then, of course, staff's doing a few things too, so. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. All right, the next item on our agenda is amendment of employee handbook, ordinance number 24-1252, and I'll turn it over to City Recorder Perry.
So you approved it October, and then I went on a medical leave, and while I had all that time on my hands, I started reading through and I found a couple things that I didn't feel really lived up to our employer's choice. And so at age 65, when an employee reaches age 65, but they're still employed with us, previously our insurance would cease, which would affect their dependents. We have decided that we want to continue to offer our coverage to our employed over 65. When they do retire, then it will cease and their Medicare will take over. And then
That's fair.
let's say the employees, the pump price doesn't work, it's the pump act. We already kind of alluded to this one in our handbook, we just didn't really name it. But it just means that we have to be able to give any recently returned mothers space, privacy, storage for them to pump for their baby.
Where will that be, Tracy? In this building or?
Well, that's to be determined because like I was just talking with Ally, she's going out in a couple of weeks. Well, I was talking with them, how are we going to accommodate her when she gets back? It's something we're gonna have to figure out, because we haven't done it before.
Okay.
And then, oh, I'm sorry, that. Oh, I think. I must have pulled out the same one, I'm sorry. But the other one is the Pregnancy Fairness.
Workers.
Yeah, Pregnant Workers Fairness Act. It's basically giving pregnant employees what they need to be comfortable and accommodating them, just like we would anybody else with ADA requests. And all I did was just add those into the body of the employee handbook.
And the over 65, that's not gonna apply to a huge number of employees.
No, we currently have two. Most are gonna wanna retire, but we currently have two that could, well, only one of them actually needs coverage for a dependent, but we just thought that would be another incentive if they wanna keep working, you know.
And it won't cost the city much at all. In
No,
the scheme of
it'll be
things.
very minimal.
Okay. All right, any questions on the employee handbook amendments? Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Perry. Next we have budget carryover amendments, ordinance number 24-1253. Mr. Alexander?
Yes. That is, pretty much something we do every year. It's, the rollover of grants, you know, all the T-Dots, which I think is 3 or 4. I think 4 of them are still out there, and then the THSO and the HIDA. And the next meeting, we're gonna do a different one, new HIDA, new THSO. So I just wanted you to know, there's, you know, it could be confusing.
Okay,
Any
Okay.
questions?
any questions for the amendments? No? All right, thank you very much. Next, we have participate in 2024 to 2028 Tennessee Department of Commerce and Insurance Grant for Law Enforcement, resolution number 24-1647. Chief Seymour.
Good.
Good evening.
So this really is, the state is offering money, they budgeted money to incentivize officers from other states to come into Tennessee, or to incentivize officers that have left law enforcement to come back in. So really, this is giving us permission to participate, to accept these, to transfer the funds to the actual officers. So in summary, what it allows us to do is if we hire somebody from out of state and they meet the qualifications of an officer, then the state is offering bonus money to be paid to them. And so what it is we apply to the state, say, hey, we hired this individual, they send us the money, then we pass that money on to the officers. In the workings of that, it's like I think the maximum's like $10,000, but it's paid over like $3,000 increments. And they get a little bit at the beginning when they start, and then $3,000, I think, like over the 3 or 4 year period of time. So really, it doesn't cost Red Bank any money. It's just allowing us to participate in funding and all that the state is providing to incentivize all that. That's really all it's doing. So it's not like we get a total of $200,000, then if we don't use it, we have to pay it. I think they keep it, and because it's subject to available funds, it's available with the state.
But that's besides their salary and what we pay.
Correct.
It's over and above.
That's
To
in addition to-
incentivize.
Correct.
Is it particular to any type of position, law enforcement position, like officer, detective, lieutenant, captain?
It just has to be sworn, just a sworn member that comes in.
Do we have any openings right now? Do you all have?
Mhm.
You do?
Yes.
So you'll be able to,
It's possible. We have a lot of candidates though that are just local,
okay,
and there's 1 or 2 that are from out of state. But we're just going to try to look for good candidates. But it's a lot, like if we didn't accept it, then to incentivize others to come from other states. So there's some movement, right? There's
mhm,
a lot of people moving into Tennessee, even law enforcement officers, and not just Tennessee. So this just helps. Well, why go to Georgia? Let's go to Tennessee if I can get a little money. So it just allows us to be able to participate in that and recruit, excellent talent.
Is that part
Without
of the,
using our direct money. I know it's still taxpayer money, but it's not
That's right.
like from our tax base.
Is it listed in the job description that that's in addition to,
Not yet.
okay,
That's what I was gonna ask.
Not
if
yet.
you change How you are, putting out.
And the state's just rolling this out, right? So,
okay.
and I, honestly, there was a lot of confusion to me at the beginning and still is a little bit on, I didn't think they were going to do this as a grant. I just thought we'd hire and we'd send in kind of invoices or something and proof, but they just set it up as a grant. Is how they're kind of tracking it and all, so.
So we'll have to pay it, I'm sorry, we'll have to pay it out and then they'll reimburse us, or are they sending us the money and then whatever we have left over that is not used, we
Yes.
send back? Okay,
The way I understand it is at the end of the year, we send them an invoice.
Okay.
Or whatever to get that money. So,
Okay.
I could be wrong, I'm
So
not,
it's not entire 40,000 that year, it's just we invoice them for what we actually paid out.
that is correct.
up to that amount.
Up to that maximum amount, right. And where they came up with that, I don't know, they might. It seemed like I answered a questionnaire and I don't know how many do you hire each year, 3, 4, whatever that is.
Okay,
I don't know if it's that or if they kind of equaled it out or equaled out for those that want to participate, so.
So the eligibility requirements are not on our end. It would be the candidate's eligibility and only if they're from out of state or returning from retirement.
Yeah, I think they either have to be like post-certified recognized, or actually, I think anybody from out of state.
So like like the local candidates you mentioned wouldn't be eligible.
Well, they may be. I think, well, actually, hang on, let me find it. Because it talks about experienced officers for like those that have been out of law enforcement for like over a year, or those that are coming out of state. There's another category that talks about no previous certified experience. This is supposed to encourage those to come in from out of state, so.
Okay. Well, either way, it's a good idea, but
From an HR
Just curious.
perspective, I'd say we probably need to make sure we have a really good understanding
Mhm.
before we do add it to any job description.
Mhm.
Oh, sure.
who's eligible and who wouldn't be eligible. Yeah, because I don't, if fresh recruits out of the academy are eligible or not, or only if they're out of state or,
I'll have to get it,
yeah. Okay,
Correct.
we can definitely dig into that later. Any other questions on the insurance, Department of Commerce and Insurance grant? It's not where I
And the reason
expected
you
it
might
to be.
think, Brian, Department of Commerce and Insurance, that's where the Peace Officer Standard Training Commission, where the certification body is under, the Post Commission is under the Department of Commerce and Insurance, so that's where that comes from.
Okay. If there's no more questions on that, then the next item is the HIDTA HIDA grant participation, resolution number 24-1642. Also Chief Seymour.
So you may recall, we bring this up every year. It's just our participation in the HIDA program, which is part of the DEA, the High Intensity Drug Trafficking Areas. It's their federal program they allow other agencies to participate in. So what it does is we help provide an officer or detective to help with narcotics investigations to the DEA. And in response to that, they help try to cover some of the costs, especially the overtime costs, adds more resources to us and things like that. So this is just authorizing us to continue that partnership with the DEA.
This is an annual recurring grant we've been doing for many years,
Correct,
and there's no match.
correct.
All right, any questions on the HIDA grant? All right, then we'll keep Chief Seymour and ask him to go get his other hat, his CIO hat, and tell us about update of firewalls and licensing from RJ Young, resolution number 24-1643.
This is, as you know, there's hardware that we have in place that allows for secure network. And so this cost is every 3 to 5 years, our firewalls need to be replaced. And so we're like on year 4 or whatnot. So either this year we could replace them, or we could just pay for the licensing 1 year and get it paid for or taken care of next year. If we go ahead, this agreement, if we enter into a 3-year license term, they throw in the hardware for free. So our intent is to use ARPA funds this is a cost that we would have to pay either next year or this year anyway. So we're just gonna go ahead and do that because what we found out is with some changes in our network, one of the firewall sizes is not sufficient for one of our locations. And so we have actually a device that we were going to use for the school if we had moved offices temporarily. So we actually have hardware. We're going to repurpose that, but we have to buy licensing. All this is to update and replace our current firewalls that are there. And then along with the cost, it includes licensing for 3 years. So we shouldn't have, past this, we won't have to have any costs for another 3 years. And then we'll have some licensing costs, or we'll make the decision to replace them.
This is again towards our commission goal for adequate digital capacity.
Absolutely.
All right. Any questions on the firewall update? Okay, back to your chief hat. Purchase of one budgeted patrol vehicle for police department, resolution number 24-1645.
This is simply asking permission to purchase a car that we budgeted for. Now, it's on the lot at the dealership. And so really these are, where to go? It'll be a long story. I can make it short. And y'all probably say, just make it short. We can get along. We wanted hybrid vehicles, but they're just not being made. And the last vehicles that we ordered have taken 18 months. Matter of fact, there's another vehicle that's not on here. It's already been previously approved, but it's available, and it's 18 months after we ordered it, right? And so this is simply, they have it on the lot. Instead of waiting another year and a half, because who knows what it is, they have one, and so we wanted to take that opportunity to go ahead and purchase it. It's on state contract. So we didn't bid it out, but the pricing is based on state contract with the vendor. And it is budgeted this year.
Any questions on the budget so far? And we'll roll right into the next related item, purchase of one unbudgeted patrol vehicle for the police department, resolution 24-1646.
So this one is unbudgeted. What has happened is when we called the vendor to check the status for our vehicles, he mentioned that, well, yeah, we got another one for you, right? If you want it. And I was like, well, I wasn't planning on ordering, this year we weren't going to order it. I had to order one because we added a position, right? And we were going to wait till next year to order a couple or so. So my intent is when I called him, knowing that it takes a year and a half now to get vehicles, and they're still building cars from that order. They have one on the lot, they have our name on it, and I'm like, well, hold it. Let me see if we can get permission to order it. Wasn't planning on ordering it till next year, but knowing how long it takes, and it's been rough. So this really is asking permission, even though it has not been budgeted, to go ahead and order a car, pay for it this year, and that would take a place of ordering it for next year. Now, what do I look like for next year? I don't know if I still will have to order one or two more. I really don't know. With this, I'll just have to look at the way our vehicles are and the mileage and all that as we get a little bit closer to budget time. But this would replace one of the cars that I was planning on next year. Discussing with our finance director on what's the best way to do this, if we could afford it and all that. His suggestion was taking out a fund balance that we're safe there. The way the interest rates are, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but the way the interest rates were really high, he would rather pay out a fund balance, maybe a better idea than using interest and adding it to a loan or creating a loan. For that amount for one vehicle. I would then have to come up with finding money in the budget or whatnot to be able to get it equipped and all that, which probably would not be a problem. We can move some things around to make that happen. So obviously, if you approve this tonight, what it would require is a budget amendment. Also, Mr. Alexander, whoever would have to add that to kind of some budget amendments to be able to do that. So.
Chief, I do have a question because I had noted this, that the resolution says that the funds would come from the police department operating budget.
Or which one?
On this one,
Okay.
Unbudgeted.
1646. But you're saying that it's general fund?
Yeah, they don't,
Fund
their budget
balance.
was already set, without this vehicle.
They're
Sure,
general
but-
fund, they're general fund operations, so,
Yeah.
it would come from that budget, and then the budget amendment would increase their budget when
Right.
we circle back around and actually do that.
Okay.
It would increase a line, if it was approved, we'd have to, right through the budget amendment, it would increase one of the line items on our general fund budget. Depending on which one we, I don't know if we put in a 900 or
Yeah.
942 or something, or capital outlets.
So we have a balance on the drug fund. I assume, is this not eligible purchase for that?
It is, but we do not have enough funds for that. We pretty much empty that out to pay for our new laptops that need to be replaced in the cars. And then it also helps cover some of the costs for our canine program and the dog and things like that. So there is funds there, but it's not enough to. Pay for
Not,
this.
not uncommitted funds.
Correct.
Yes. Okay, any other questions for the patrol vehicle?
Yeah, just as far as intended use goes, so if this comes in, are you going to retire a current vehicle or just have a +1 surplus, or what's?
Yes, the intent has been to get rid of our 2010 Dodge Chargers for like a couple of years now, but the way the vehicles have operated, we haven't been able to do that. So the intent of this other vehicle would be to replace one of our CID vehicles. We'd roll out one of those CID vehicles to be our spare vehicle. We have a older Impala that sits out here we've been trying to get rid of for a couple of years, and we'd be able to get rid of it.
Okay.
So the intent is, yes, to get rid of 2 or 3 vehicles for sure.
I don't suppose one of those vehicles might be the Ghost Graphics?
Not quite there yet.
Not yet? Okay. All right, any other questions?
Would the older vehicles possibly be sold to a smaller organization, or what do you do with?
That's normally what we do. We normally sell those.
Okay.
We put them online, like our online bidding processes.
On
That
GovDeals?
would be approved
Yeah,
for y'all,
GovDeals.
correct? That's, yes. And, but depending on the vehicle and where the funds were taken from, determines where the funds have to go back into. So if we use drug funds to buy this specific car, then the funds from that vehicle have to go back into drug funds.
Sure.
But some of them are bought out of general fund money, some of them are bought from drug fund money over the years, so. But yes, we'd get a little money out of it. Not a lot, but some.
All right, any other questions? Okay, then we'll move on. Thank you, Chief Seymour, to award contracts to Barge Design Solutions and Volkert Inc. for on-call traffic engineering. Resolution 24-1644, and I'll call on Director Tate.
And Mayor, can I intervene too? It's close to our hard stop time, so if you'll make it quick, Greg.
Okay, I'll make it quick. I apologize for Deputy Director Johnson. She was not able to be here tonight. This resolution is for the Public Works Department to enter into a contract with Volkert and Barge Design for on-call traffic engineering services. There's been a great demand for, looking at right sizing and just different multimodal transportation projects for the future. And this is an RFQ for their qualifications for them to serve us in that capacity. This involves no money. Any money would come after an agreement for them to perform a service, and they perform a price, and then we would follow procurement policies from there. Up to $10,000 city manager could approve, and anything over would come before the commission.
All right, any questions on the, Volkert?
Yeah, just one. So these Volkert and Barge have kind of overlapping scopes, and if one can't
Right, it
be
would
there on call, the others.
Right, it would be our choice, and, certainly availability at the time of need would probably pay this decision and selection.
Do they abide by the same rate for services?
They have slightly different rates, and I've got copies of the rates that Leslie provided for me. They're comparable. Each of their individual professional services were just like $5 plus or minus the other. So it's kind of a washout depending on what type of service we needed, whether it's surveying or engineering or.
All right, any more questions? All right, thank you very much, Director Tate. In the interest of time, if it's all right with everyone, we will table the remaining items and we will be going over all of those in our regular meeting at 6 o'clock. And we'll go ahead and move to citizen comments for items on this work session agenda. Mr. Graham, can you go over the rules for us?
Thank you, Mayor. This is the time for public comment. Please observe these rules. Comments are limited to 2 minutes or less in work session, and the city recorder will operate the timer visible on the dais. Please respect her direction and conclude any comments if time expires. All comments should be addressed to the board as a whole and not to a particular commissioner, city staff, or the audience. The commission is here to listen, not necessarily to respond or engage in back and forth, so please do not expect to reply during public comment. At this time, citizens are invited to the podium to comment. Please begin by stating your name and address.
Tom McKenzie, 110 Brentwood. I am very appreciative that the city commission has instituted this public comment opportunity on the work sessions. There's been a couple of times that I really wanted the chance to say something and couldn't. But I do want to raise a question about the hard stop at 5:45, because the discussions y'all have on the work session are extremely important to your business. And I don't often see citizens wanting to make comments during the work session. So I don't know the answer, but the hard stop to me may be too much solution to a needed opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. McKenzie. Any other comments for items on this work session agenda? All right. If there are no more comments, then we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting and have a brief break before our 6 o'clock meeting. Yep. Okay. We have less people here, so maybe we won't have as much as a run on the restrooms.
Is it worth making the work session longer for that reason? Like keep the hard stop, but
Well, we've considered starting it earlier, but you